Will HYLD raise its dividend in 2024? I'm going to give you 3 reasons as to why I think that will be the case, especially as an HYLD holder myself. I'm very confident in this prediction. Again, it will be speculation, total opinion here. I have not contacted Hamilton about this. They have not contacted me about this. Let's just use some fact-based, evidence-based research to come to a conclusion. Okay, so 2 of the reasons I think are fairly self-explanatory. Then the last reason I think is a really good way of being able to potentially predict not only Hamilton raising its dividends, but potentially other covered call ETFs as well that you can go out and calculate for yourself. So let's get started here. This is an article by the Globe and Mail that they put out on November 6th. And it says, Bank of Canada seen starting to cut interest rates in April, survey finds. So I get it, it's a survey, but let's extract what information that could be useful for us in here. Now, it does say that the survey includes 27 financial participants. That's people in the banking industry, financial services, life insurance, I suppose. Anyway, across the board. Now, they suspect that at the current rate, at 5%, we'll start to see rate cuts in April of 2024, a month later than the previous forecast. And by Q4, we should be at around a 4% rate by then, which means if we see a 1% interest rate cut from the Bank of Canada, then we could potentially see what that means is, I guess, a 20% cut from the leverage expenses within HYLD, which will give the fund managers over at Hamilton ETFs one more tool in the arsenal, or at least another tool as to why they could potentially raise the dividend. Okay, the next one is, for the second reason, more self-explanatory, is the makeup of HYLD. There are a bunch of other funds inside of HYLD. You can see a couple funds from JP Morgan. Sorry for the lights kind of going out. There's a windstorm outside, but yeah, we're going to get through this. Okay, so Horizons is a couple others. We got Harvest, we got Global X, more Horizons, but we also have this one fund by Hamilton with a 3.1% weighting. And this is the biggest reason here. Hamilton, when it created HYLD, it just invested in all these other ETFs inside of HYLD. But over the course of 2023, Hamilton has really been pushing forward with their own brand of covered call ETFs in different sectors and different indexes. So for instance, HMAX covers financials here in Canada. UMAX covers utilities here in Canada, communications, rail lines, energy, pipelines, anyways. They recently came out with SMAX, which is basically an S&P 500 covered call ETF. And then they also came out with QMAX, a NASDAQ 100 covering technology. Now, as their lineup of maximizers grow, I suspect they will add them here into HYLD. SMAX, that weighting for sure will move up. Almost certainly it will move up. They'll also add QMAX in here. So the interesting part about that is, will they bump one of their, say, will QMAX bump JQ, or will it bump QQCC, or will it bump QYLD? Will SMAX replace XYLD? Will it replace USCC? Will it replace JEPI? These funds kind of all have more of a correlation to one another. And then what other funds will they create that they'll put inside of HYLD? So exciting times. We'll have to see how that works out. But if they do that, that simply means that they will be they'll be able to reduce fees, because right now if you buy into HYLD, you are paying management fees on Hamilton, and you're also paying the management fees on all of these underlying funds as well. So naturally, if they create more in-house products, they can add them here. There won't be any double dipping. It just means that they can reduce fees, which allows them to have more confidence to raise that dividend. Okay, now we'll head into the last reason, which is an article that they produced when they actually cut their dividend from 14 cents down to 12 cents back in April of this year, 2023. So I'm going to give you guys some calculations here. Stick with me on this one because I think this will be really useful for you guys anticipating this potential dividend increase. Okay, so what this article basically taught, it's a pretty big article, but all we really want to focus in on here is this little chart here. Okay, and this is so you understand when HYLD will cut its dividend and when it will raise its dividend, which is called HYLD yield rule of thumb. Okay, so you see the 0% line that trends across from February to April, from February 2022 to April of 2023. That essentially just represents the HYLD yield, and then all these little gray bars represent all the average yield of the underlying ETFs all combined. Okay, so we can see from February that average yield was a little bit higher than HYLD, and then we can see it increased and it slightly decreased, but basically to pay out a stable distribution, Hamilton wants to stay within this 1% on either side, and that gives it the ability to not be variable like many of the underlying ETFs on the American side, which pay out a lot of variable distributions. So when that underlying yield is significantly higher, like a lot closer to 2%, that gives them the confidence to raise it. They want the HYLD yield to be very similar to the yield of the underlying. So you can see here that they raised the dividend by about a quarter of a penny, and in doing so, it brought the HYLD yield closer to the underlying. Okay, and then for a few months, it stayed within that healthy range of the +1 -1. Okay, then we see here in September 2022 goes below 1%, but it stayed at 14 cents. So this is the non-danger zone, and then in February and March, it basically hit the point of this is no good. The underlying yield is dropping, right? The premiums that are being paid out to all the underlying funds are decreasing, which is decreasing their yields. Yet HYLD's yield is like way higher, and it can't stay there, or else HYLD is going to be forced to pay out basically your invested principal. So Hamilton couldn't do that, of course, so they chopped the distribution by 2 cents, which meant that the equilibrium changed, and once again the underlying ETFs, the average was now about 1% higher, bringing it to a healthy range, and it would give them the confidence. They would be a lot closer to raising it over time. How does that help us with today? Well, if we go into, we're going to go into 8 underlying funds, and we're going to actually calculate where, as of today, where this gray bar lies. Okay, so let's get into the average yield. We can see with XYLD, the annualized yield, if we pushed it out, is basically at 12%. And just to see how the premiums have been paid out from XYLD, you can see April 2023, and in May it dropped, but then you can see this kind of steady incline at around after April of this year. If we go to QYLD, we got just under 12% annualized out. Same deal around May. You can start to see these increases. Again, RYLD, its yield is again just below 12%. We can see that it's steadily increasing over time. JP Morgan, its yield not as high as it once was, but annualized out 8.45%. JEPQ, similar to all those XYLD funds, Let's head up Horizons USCC. Very similar to JEPQ and all of the Global X funds. What else we got here? QQCC, similar to everything else. And then we have HHL, kind of more similar to JEPI. It's like under 10%. So if you added all of that up between those 8 funds, you'd basically get about 90. Okay, you're adding up all the yields. Now divide it by those 8 funds, and you get an average yield of 11.25%. But now we have to multiply it. See this little equation here? It's a little bit backwards where we have, right now we have the HYLD underlying yield. So now we multiply it by 1.25, okay, which gets us 14%. Now we have to subtract the current yield, which if you don't know how to do this, very simple. All you need to do is take the monthly distribution, which is 12 cents, multiply that by 12 months, you'll get 1.44, and then divide that by the current share price, okay? So if we do all that right now, we would get 12.22. So we're gonna subtract, because that's what it tells us to do here, minus the HYLD yield, which is 12.22. Okay, that gets us to 1.84. Now, because there's different weightings, and I just wanted to make this as simple as humanly possible, this is probably, we're gonna just say it's probably more like 1.65. Okay, just to be safe. So at 1.65, that actually puts us kind of more in this ballpark right here. So as of today, I think this is where we currently are, okay? So we are in the healthy side of things. That 12-cent distribution as of right now is actually pretty safe. Unless like the market just shoots up, volatility rockets into the ground, that 12 cents is looking actually pretty good. And considering we're going into a year with potential interest rate cuts and other Hamilton ETF funds that are potentially going to get added to HYLD, and even with QMAX, already an ETF that for sure will go inside HYLD, SMAX increasing, I think all of this bodes really well for a dividend increase of HYLD. And I'm personally excited about that because if I include all my portfolios from Questrade and Wealthsimple, the different versions of HYLD probably make up 50% of my portfolio. So naturally, I'm pretty stoked about that. Can't wait for this potential. I'm pretty confident that this is what's going to happen. But anyway, everybody, let me know what you think about all of this. Am I wrong? Did I miss something? I will put links in the description below of where you can find this graph. And hope you all enjoyed. I do offer one-on-one mentorship for free. I'll probably pin that in the comments below. And hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you all in the next video.